Welcome to this Wellness Wednesday. As we are a few weeks into the season of winter, we enter into the season of winter in body, in mind, and in spirit through meditation, through ritual, through movement and prayer. And right now, we're doing this through excerpts from the book, The Circle of Life, The Heart's Journey Through the Seasons by Joyce Rupp and Macrina Wiederkehr. Some great resources there that we are able to dive into during this season of contemplation, this season of, winter is kind of this quiet time of solitude and often even grief. As we wait for spring to come, remembering that there is still life under the surface, just waiting to be reborn, that things are still happening underneath that cold ground. Maybe it's cold where you are, maybe it's warm where you are, but the seasons change regardless. There are different ways that the seasons show themselves no matter where we are in the world. So today you are invited into a practice of nurturing wellness through praying through the gospel of winter. The gospel is a teaching or a revelation, and winter has much to teach us. We're also going to be introduced into a form of body prayer that we can use not only in our time today, but that you can use anytime you enter into a time of prayer. So let's begin by grounding ourselves and centering ourselves in preparation for this time together. I invite you to close your eyes or soften your gaze. Take a deep breath in and a long exhalation out through the nose. Feeling the cool air inhale and the warm air exhale. Feel into the soles of your feet, into the ground of whatever is underneath your feet. Notice if the ground is soft or hard. Any textures you might feel. Is it carpet or is it hard floor? Is it cool or is it warm? Maybe lift your toes up and spread them out. Wiggle them around a little bit and then place them back down on the ground. Feeling that groundedness in our feet. And feel the energy from that groundedness moving up our legs into our knees, and maybe take your palms and just touch your kneecaps, rotating around in circles. And then moving up the thighs, just press into your thighs gently, feeling that firmness of touch, grounding into your legs. Feel the backs of your legs and your seat as they are grounding into your chair. And then moving up the spine, perhaps you're leaning back in your chair, feeling supported by the back of your chair, or maybe you're sitting up tall, spine long, shoulders back and down, head lifted a little bit higher. You find the place that is most honoring to your practice today. As you inhale and exhale. Notice any sounds that may be around you. Maybe there's traffic outside or birds chirping out your window, or maybe you have wind chimes outside of your house. Maybe it's just the sound of my voice, the sound of your breath as you inhale and exhale. I invite you to take 3 more breaths and then slowly open your eyes. As we enter into our time of prayer, I invite you into this embodied prayer practice. And this is through hand gestures that we can use in our prayer time together as we pray through the Gospel of Winter, or in your prayer time on your own, anywhere that you are. So there's 4 simple hand gestures that you can use for this. And you can also create your own. So I want you to take time to notice how each one feels in your body, in your mind, in your spirit. Maybe certain ones are more you identify more with. Maybe you want to make a slight alteration for your own. It just feels better to make a slight alteration to it. Feel free to modify this in whatever way feels right to you. So the first one is await. And for await, you bring your hands about to your waist, or I'm going to lift them a little bit higher so that you can see them. They're cupped open to receive. And this awaiting hand gesture is awaiting God's presence. So when you're in a moment of prayer and you're awaiting God's presence, not as you expect, not as you hope or imagine, but just as it is in this moment. So when you're in moments of prayer where you're waiting, this may be a hand gesture that feels appropriate. Notice how it feels to do this hand gesture. Notice any thoughts or sensations that arise. The next one is allow. And for allow, we raise our hands up and open, allowing a sense of God's presence or not, because sometimes maybe we feel like we're alone. So allowing a sense of God's presence or not to come and be what it is without meeting our own expectations. Just allowing God's presence to be what it is. Notice how this feels. Notice any thoughts or sensations that arise. Then we move to accept as we bring our hands to our heart, cupped in towards the body. We accept as a gift whatever comes or does not come. Accepting that we are not in charge, accepting the infinity of God's presence, whether or not we are aware of it. Acceptance. Notice how this feels. Notice any thoughts or sensations that arise with this gesture. And then we reach our hands outstretched, ready to be responsive as we move into attend. In this stance of openness, we attend to the actions that God invites us to take. So when we're ready to attend to the actions of prayer, or the actions of the response that we've received from prayer, we may move into this gesture of attend. Notice how this feels. Notice any thoughts or sensations that arise. Let us continue in prayer. And I invite you to use these gestures throughout our time as we pray through the Gospel of Winter. I invite you to choose whichever hand gesture: await, allow, accept, or attend, that feels right to you in that particular moment. Feel free to change it throughout our prayers. Let us continue in prayer. In her book, Growing Season, Arlene Bernstein uses gardening to help her work through grief. In this passage, we see her thinning the winter lettuce she has planted. The lettuce seeds that I scattered in hastily prepared ground as a parting gesture before we left 2 weeks ago have all sprouted. They've made their first true leaves and are crowding each other as they continue to grow. They cannot all expand and mature in such suffocating closeness. Since I haven't yet turned the soil, I have no place to transplant them. Thinning is the only answer. As you find your gesture of prayer, I invite you to reflect on any kind of suffocating closeness in your life that prevents you from maturity and growth. Is there anything that needs to be thinned out? What is too crowded? Winter is a wonderful time to meditate on the things that need more space in our lives. Mark chapter 1, verse 35 says, "In the morning, while it was still very dark, he got up and went out to a deserted place, and there he prayed." We are invited to follow in the example of Jesus in going away to a place of solitude. This is a way of thinning your lettuce. Sometimes there are just too many thoughts, too many people, too much action. In the spaces between our words and actions, we gain new insights into our living. The sting of grief is often compared to the sting of winter. Many find a kinship in the season of grief and the season of winter. A season of grief, like winter, insists that you give yourself space for solitude. Reflect on this quote from Khalil Gibran, taken from the Prophet. He says, "And you would accept the seasons of your heart, even as you have always accepted the seasons that pass over your fields. And you would watch with serenity through the winters of your grief." I invite you to walk through some of your seasons of grief. What have these seasons taught you? Winter speaks. She says, "You are one of God's holy and mysterious grace-filled seeds. Would you like to rest in the quiet earth of your inner self? I can teach you to be silent and hopeful as you wait. You will learn this art if you are willing to slow down and observe my wisdom. Be patient with each moment. You cannot hurry transformation. Allow it to unfold in its own time. As you learn to embrace my winter spirit, you will discover there is an immense need for slowing down, for silence, and resting. Carve out some time for solitude. Listen to all those things that speak without words. You do not always have to be producing, creating, harvesting. Learn to be idle. Learn to rest. I spend long months in stillness. Those who observe me often think there is nothing happening in my great solitude and long nights of darkness. These people have obviously never lived inside my womb, for there they would find seeds growing strong for their spring journey. They would hear seeds dreaming. They would hear the sigh of the soil as it rests from its labors. They would be in awe of the wonders stirring inside my darkness. Let the image of my barren trees come into the eye of your heart. Notice the loveliness of the dark branches and the way they reach out in all directions. Look at their textures and shapes. This is my winter dance of emptiness, and I have come to treasure it. I am being renewed. I have gone into my dreaming time. Now in my barrenness, a different kind of beauty is being revealed. You too can discover beauty in the midst of your barrenness. Imagine that you are standing out there with the lonely trees. You have been stripped of all your bright knowing. You are empty and you are lonely. Do not be afraid of loneliness. In the heart of that loneliness, you will discover your great need for God and for others. Find a winter tree. Stand beside it in its winter watch. Keep it company. Discover its beauty. Listen to its wordless sermons. Put your ear to my frozen ground and listen to the seeds as they dream. O season of hidden life, come, teach us humility. Cut through the frozen ground of our being. Soften that which has become hard and unfeeling. Free all that resists the silent waiting. Come. Amen.